Owning a car in general can get pretty expensive, but owning a car in Arlington comes with one big added expense on top of all of the rest. Arlington has what's known as the personal property tax, better known by some as the car tax. This tax is applied to all vehicles that are garaged regularly, aka parked overnight in Arlington. You may have noticed that I said vehicles and not cars. That's because this tax is applied to practically all vehicles to include those that are not running and even those that don't drive on Arlington's streets, as you can see by boats and aircraft being included in the list. Side note, if you have a plane that you keep in Arlington, I would love to know where you keep it. Where is there even really any space for it? The tax applies even if the vehicle is outside of the county, whether for work or travel or really any reason. So in reality, the tax is pretty much based on where the car is registered. And if you think you're gonna sneak by and register it in a place that doesn't have the personal property tax so you don't have to pay, remember that definition of being parked regularly overnight, you'll still have to pay if it meets the criteria. On top of that, if it's registered out of state, but you still keep it in Arlington most of the time, you also have to pay an out-of-state fee on top of the personal property tax. There are limited exceptions for vehicles that are not required to pay the personal property tax. These exceptions include members of the military, students who meet certain conditions, vehicles registered with the local, state, and federal government, and diplomats. So now that we've established what this tax is and who has to pay it, what's the actual cost? Well, for Arlington, the personal property tax rate has been set at about $5 per $100 of assessed vehicle value for the past few years. This is one of the higher rates in Virginia, but definitely not the highest. That honor goes to the county that has a 9% personal property tax rate. The assessed value is currently determined using J.D. Power car values. Keep in mind that the tax rate and car valuation tools are always subject to change. Given the current 5% rate, if you have a car with an assessed value of $20,000, you would be looking at a personal property tax bill of $1,000, assuming you kept it in Arlington for the full year. That's a pretty big bill just for owning a car. But don't panic yet. Arlington offers tax relief for cars that meet certain criteria. Typically, that's going to be for personally owned cars that are not used primarily for business. The tax relief includes a 100% relief from the first $3,000 of assessed value, and then 24% relief from the assessed value between $3,001 and $20,000. In the example I just used of a car with an assessed value of $20,000, this tax relief would mean that the new bill would actually be closer to about $646. Still not cheap, but definitely better than $1,000. Run some math yourself and tell me in the comments what your tax bill would be if you lived in Arlington. Now that you have an idea of what Arlington's personal property tax costs, check out this next video where I cover some of the other major costs of living in Arlington.